to the Myokinetic podcast. And today is just a solo podcast. And I want to talk about all this new article that just came out of how they just literally talking about how $1.3 billion from 2020 to 2022 was given to top peer review research journal. And those are actually being paid by big pharmaceutical company and medical device company. And this is extremely astonishing just because, me personally as a healthcare provider, I always look up to these journals to find out what is the current trend, what is the current research to help me dictate how I can care for my patient. So when I see this article coming out, like the biggest thing for me, it was really heartbreaking because it made me immediately lose trust in the journal community, right? Why is that a thing? Because at the end of the day, people who are controlling the money and send the money to these journal are the ones who's going to control the narrative, right? So it made me question the integrity of the journals themselves and the quality of the research that's coming out within this past, within that 2 years, right? From 2020 to 2022. Now, what does that mean? That means there's many things that we're going to have to go into and then figure out like, okay, behind these research, who benefited from those kind of research? Was it truly intentional to make it has a meaningful impact, positive impact within regular people like you and I? Or is it strictly there to just benefit the people in the pharmaceutical company and the medical device company, right? So some implication regarding this, first thing I mentioned is trust in the medical research, right? If, let's say, you come to work with me and you realize that I'm being paid by someone else to use their product rather than to just keep my true, honest opinion of things that would work, I'm being influenced by something else, right? And we don't want that, right? So you're immediately going to lose trust in the medical community, which is, again, we're not doing a good job to begin with. We don't give patients more time. We don't give them, top-notch quality care just because reimbursement just get lower and lower every single day, right? Again, for me, I'm really lucky to be surrounded by medical doctors who has high ethical standard, which means they're going to put their patients, right? And this is why I'm so thankful with the network that we have that we can refer our patient to, right? Second thing, can you trust in the medicine they're giving you, right? Because all of this suggests, like, what if there are some articles that show, negative implication regarding drugs and medical device? How do we know that those articles are not being shelved and they're not being exposed to let us, the consumer, know how important all these things are, right? The next thing that's going to impact us is the quality of healthcare, right? Because if research is biased because reviewers are being paid, that means the treatment and the drugs is also going to be biased as well. So now you can kind of see the trend too, because we spend the most dollars compared to all, first world nation in the West, in the West, and we have the sickest people, right? Majority of the population obese. We have, a lot of chronic issues, right? Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and all of that stuff. Now, and on average, Americans are on between 4 to 5 medication, right? If we're on more medication, we're getting sicker. How do we know that these research that they're showing us is actually truthful and it's not just lining the pockets of like big pharmaceutical company or big insurance company, right? So the whole notion of doing no harm is kind of go on the wayside because you're not intentionally doing harm, but you're also withholding information that could be negatively impact on someone's health. Next one is going to be the medical costs, right? When companies or research are pushing certain drugs through their own biases research, that's going to drive up the cost of healthcare. That's going to drive up the drug costs, right? So if they say, oh, this drug is the best for this, then they're going to say, okay, well, people need to be prescribing this more. And that's going to mean they can bring up the price of the drugs. Now, rather than having really affordable drugs, now you have unaffordable drugs, you have expensive drugs that might not even work because it's getting promoted. And again, pharmaceutical company is a big $1 billion industry that have high margin, right? And the biggest eye opener for me was like during COVID when people were using, the insurance way more because people were getting sick. Somehow, pharmaceutical company are able to make huge percentage of their profit margin. So again, that's just mean they're just, footing us the bill, a higher bill for us to pay our pocket rather than just, creating a drug that is a fair price, right? And again, these go in hand, right? If you're looking at pharmaceutical company and insurance company, and what I absolutely despise and why we're out of network and we're not in network with any insurance company is because insurance company looking to control provider who are in that network by giving them the lowest reimbursement possible. What that means is that provider will be handcuffed in that rate, and therefore in order to make the margin to cover the overhead to grow their company, they need to see more patient. And you know what that means? That means the quality of care is going to be less and less, right? So if you look at PT, for example, traditional setting, you're going to be seeing the PT will be seeing 3 to 4 patients an hour. The patient will only get 15 minutes of direct care with physical therapists, and then the rest of their time will be overseen by someone who is a PT aide that's prescribing you exercises and all of that stuff. And that's not the right model, because the real model is you want to spend as much time with your patient as possible, especially if they have complex injury, chronic pain, like someone who just tore the ACL, the UCL, right? And if you have, population that we have, which is high level athletes who wants to get back on the mount, who wants to get back on the field, who wants to have scholarship, to play Division I sport or go to college for free, right? Or some instances, they want to be able to play in the NFL or the MLB. Like, these are people that are going to be affected by that. And it's not going to put them on the path where they're actually going to get the best care so they can fulfill their dream, right? My favorite story to tell about this is that we had an athlete who tore ACL, got surgery, and then after 2 weeks of after surgery, insurance immediately wants to cut her off of PT because she was able to walk and she was able to go up and down the stairs. So, and their main argument about that is like, oh, this person is functional. She's able to do all these things. But insurance company get to define what functional is, rather you, the patient who pay your insurance premium every month, right, get to define what is, return to function mean for you, right? So they're literally doing everything that they can to not pay the provider, myself, and not give you the best care, the patient. And they try to create this friction between, my patient and I, where we have to fight each other. Or what they're going to do is that they're going to pay me really low, and then I have to go to my patient and say, hey, here's how much you owe me, which is not fair, because if you are entitled to 60 visit and you're paying your medical costs every single month, you should be able to use that. That's just that's just an ethical thing, right? Now, the bigger impact and grand scale thing is going to come when it comes to, education and public health, right? Because if medical students are learning from these journals right now, they're the future of the medical field. And if they're learning from the biases article that being published because being brought and paid for by pharmaceutical company and then, insurance company, all the future doctors are going to learn the wrong thing. And they're going to keep pushing medication that might not work. They're going to push medication that's only going to benefit big pharmaceutical company. And guess what? Because of low reimbursement rate, medical students that are coming out, by the time they get to their, first or second year, they're going to be burned out because they're seeing too many patients, right? Now, you see this a lot. Again, next time when you go to a hospital, you go anywhere, talk to your nurses. See how many shifts they're working. See how many patients they're seeing, because there are more people leaving the field than there are people entering the field. And by the time they're entering the field, they get the wrong information and they're already burned out. So the quality of care is already gone, right? Gone are the days where you and I can go to a local practice in our hometown and the doctor just know the family history because they have treated your grandmother, your mom, and now you, right? Those days are gone, right? The local pharmacies are gone because they're being replaced by CVS, by Walmart, and all of that stuff. So that means the whole public health when it comes to a small town approach is gone, right? Everything turned into more like a fast food medical model where you just go through the drive-through, you get whatever dollar menu burger that you order for. The quality of food is not going to be good, right? And same thing, like we're turning healthcare into a drive-through model, which is detrimental to the provider themselves and for you, the patient. So this is just top of my head of how important this thing is. And again, as you're listening, it's feel really daunting, and it's daunting to me as well. But I think what we can do is let's figure out a solution of what we can do to make this better, right? I think the biggest thing is there need to be transparency across the board. I think peer review journals need to be able to just like, it should be mandatory where like these reviewers need to reveal what kind of money and who's the money they who's giving them the money to do these kind of research, right? If you have Pfizer giving them research on their drugs, that need to be disclosed so we know. Like, because again, you see it on commercial. We're like one out of the 3 countries that allowed to, big pharmaceutical company to promote their drugs on TV, right? And they list all these side effects and all of that stuff, which is great, but still, the side effect is something that you're going to be dealing with regardless, right? The disconnect between the medical community and the pharmaceutical companies that they get to push all this drug, they get to push all this treatment that may or may not work, but you're the one who's suffering with the consequences, right? Rather than talking about things that we know for a long time that would work, which is making sure you're eating healthy, right? Make sure you're eating wholesome food, right? Organic ingredient, right? Not too much high fructose corn syrup, not too much sugar, right? And then stress management, making sure you're sleeping good for 8 hours. You get sunlight exposure every single morning, right? And you have community and friends you can talk to, right? To decrease the sense of loneliness, right? That's something that we need to go back into. Things that been tried and true and work for a long, long time, right? And with the transparency, it's going to force people to actually look at long-term solution rather than short-term solution. So if you're dealing with, let's say, knee pain, for example, and you go to a medical facility that, again, like I say, is really busy and everyone's just working really hard, the doctor is going to give you their best advice based on the time that they have. So they might be saying, hey, you're in a lot of pain. Let me prescribe you this medication real quick to get you out of pain. Or let me just give you this cortisone shot. That will solve your pain problem, but will actually not solve the root cause of the problem, why your pain hurts in the first place, right? That's why doing, again, manual therapy, shockwave therapy, dry needling, acupuncture, exercise intervention, right? Nutrition intervention, like something that's habit forming, something that's long lasting effect, that's actually gonna help you solve your knee problem in the long term, rather than just putting a band-aid solution on top of it and then say, okay, this is what's going to work for now, right? And I think the next thing that we can do too is just have some sort of regulation of like, hey, how much are they allowed to take from company without, impacting on their ethics and their research, right? So in PT, I am not allowed to take money from physician who I refer to and refer to me, right? That's something that is a big no-no. So when I send my patient to doctor or surgeon, it's because I know they're the best for the job and I know they're going to treat my patient really well. And when the doctor recommend patient to us, is the exact same thing, because there's no, backdoor, giving money or like some sort of handshake agreement behind closed door, right? So regulation needs to be there to really say, hey, you can take X amount of money to do this kind of research, but you also have to disclose it, right? I also think there's need to be a disruption when it comes to these review articles, right? So like if you watch, let's say the past election, everyone's always talking about like fact check, right? There's always an independent fact check group that say, hey, this is true, this is not true. And you see that a lot on X, where like the community would just say, hey, this is not correct, this is how it's supposed to be. I think there's need to be another in the self-funded in some way that is not taking money from anyone and perform the independent, reviews. Again, it's really costly because running research takes a lot of time, takes a lot of manpower and like data analysis, and to get it published as well. And another thing too, with publication, you have to go through like the whole IRB procedure. I think you need to be able to disclose who actually is funded this study, and then if the IRB are okay with that, right? And again, everyone here need to be held accountable. And last thing is public awareness, right? The reason why I'm doing this podcast is I want everyone of you guys to understand this is what's going on in the medical community. So start asking questions, start asking yourself, trust your instinct, right? Ask your provider more information, like, hey, is this really the best solution? Do I really need to get this knee replacement now? Hey, do I need to take this drug? Like, you think cortisone is really going to be the best shot? What else can I explore, right? My number one advice to all my patients, if they're looking to get surgery, is that surgery will always be on the table, but all the intervention that is passive and non-invasive will not be once you get surgery. Because when you cut into your body, the whole healing thing has to take place. And usually every time they cut into your body, they try to put some sort of hardware, they try to remove some stuff, right? So if we're going to go down that route, then all the non-surgical interventions are already off the table. So when people are coming in, let's say they have like severe low back pain and they're about to schedule like a laminectomy, we try to do every single thing that we can to make sure that we can get patients better prior to even exploring that surgical intervention. And worst come to worst, if you are working with us, you're doing PT with great physical therapists, chances are, if you already doing all these stuff, if you end up getting surgery, you will be better off because you already know the expectation of what you need to do to get back to where you were prior to your surgery. And you can have a realistic expectation on what would happen, right? I tell parents all the time, if their kids are getting an ACL surgery or a UCL surgery, I always tell them like, hey, there is, let's say, a 15% chance that your kids might not be able to throw again, right? Our job is to make sure that you live in the 75%, the 85% where you get to throw again. So these are conversations that need to happen before you even consider surgery. And again, all of this has to do with you taking care of your own health, making sure that you pick the right provider that fit your needs, understanding what you're going through and your goals, which is extremely important. If you're a high-low athlete and you want to just be able to, again, play at a high level, you need physical therapists that understand the demand and the stress, the intensity of what it's like, right? Fortunately for us, we have been blessed to work with tons of high-low athletes. At this point, we have helped kids accumulate over $2 million when it comes to scholarship earned, right? And we do that by just keeping them healthy and giving them great resources, whether it's, doctor, whether it's nutritionist, whether it's psychologist, right? These things go hand in hand. And if we start having honest conversation all the time and you start asking harder questions to your provider, you will get better answer, right? So all in all, I want to share this so that way you know what's going on and what's happening right now and how you can do what you can do to advocate for yourself, your family, your child, so that way you have a wholesome and healthy family and not be a victim of, big pharmaceutical company, big insurance company who's looking to just take advantage of you to benefit their bottom line. So again, if you guys enjoyed this video, this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe, and then share to your peers, right? Because we need more of these conversations to keep going. And the more we have of this, the better it's going to be. And then you can just, start talking to your local, representative about all these things that actually is not helpful to your family, is actually doing a lot of harm. So that way we can all go back to that collective community that we once used to have, where everyone's just looking out for each other. And then that, wherever you go, you're going to get great care because the system is setting up to be that way. So again, my name is Dr. Natty, and I'll see you guys next time.